Welcome to Pilot Review with Scott Frost. We have a special guest here of Snipey over here, and also today who we're doing a review with is, and on their build and piloting is Dustin. Um,
Hello.
Hello.
Snipey here is one of the fellow DPS guys that I tend to run with, so he's definitely a good one to get to know for all your DPS things that you want to know and learn from him. Dustin here is trying to learn.
Yeah, slowly.
So the video we have from Dustin is using the Fleet Carfay. This is a KDF character, and it is a science captain. So just for everyone to know, Dustin, how did you record this?
I used open broadcast software.
Okay, and that was free?
Yes.
Okay. Did you notice any heavy latency after you turned it on, or is it pretty light in the system?
It was a little heavy, just getting it booted up, but it's then settled back down.
Okay, so just a typical lag startup when it first comes on.
Yep.
Okay, and as I'm looking at it, I just want to get some clarification so everyone knows. You're level 60 on this captain. Do you have all the trees filled out yet?
I have intel all filled up and working on pilot right now.
Okay, how far are you on the pilot anyways?
Just started.
Okay. That's not a problem. That's one of those things that you'll get up there eventually. So what we're going to have here is going to be going through the video here. I will warn the viewers that it might be a little hair pulling because it is pretty lagged out. This is the best run that Dustin was able to get on this. Let me make sure that's muted. And go ahead and play. And once again, like any other build that has a carrier in it, there is the wait for pets call that went out. And one thing that Dustin does is he typically puts in 20 seconds to let people know that there's a little bit of time before their next set of ships is ready, before they're ready. So this is the typical thing that you see in a lot of the DPS runs, just to make sure people are aware and alert. And it looks like you were the leader on this, so that's to give the go signal. Do you mind you have a few things there, Snipey?
Oh, yes.
Like I said, this is a painful.
It's been a while.
Yes, and this was only a few days ago that this was done. One thing you might look at doing, Dustin, as a quick little suggestion here, is you might look at rearranging your buff slots there a little bit so you don't have to click on it to get some of the skills in the far right. You see how that's kind of hidden by your bridge officer reports?
Yeah.
You can either move that down so it kind of goes out of the way of it, or you can move the bridge officers down so that it kind of fits between your ship weapons and your main skill tray there. So that might help out with the organization on that, so you don't have to do a couple of clicks to do things.
Is this your normal resolution, or you have to turn the resolution? You have to change the resolution for the recording.
Had to change it a little bit, but it is basically normal.
Okay.
Yeah. The explosions, you can't really do a whole lot about it. I would recommend at this point, while you're waiting to respawn, go into your ship inventory and repair yourself while you wait.
Yeah.
So that's one thing that you want to definitely be doing. That should help out. And as you're flying over, I would be spawning those ship pets. You have them, use them to your advantage. Make sure that they're getting the best use that you can get. see a little bit of the middle of the ship there completely disappeared, which is,
Yeah, that happened with the start of Season 10.
yeah, it's one of those bugs that they're aware of and whatnot, but doesn't affect gameplay overall. This makes
No.
it annoying.
Which when I first saw it, I'm like, well, my crew decided to have no hull.
Yep. Question for you: when you run your photonic fleet, do you notice them actually deploying? It looks like they did,
They do.
but previous runs I've done with you, I've not seen them myself. Either that, or I'm not paying attention, which could be very
Most of the time they do. Sometimes it glitches out and doesn't.
okay. So you're at 25%. What's that C7? Is that your abandoned ship? Or is that RAM?
No, RAM.
RAM?
Yep.
I would honestly remove that from your tray. That way you don't accidentally click it. You can just right click and drag it off.
Yeah.
Because it does more damage in the end. It's kind of useful if you have the pilot tree filled out and using that as your primary, because then you can not take any damage when you use it. But right now, at this point in time, it's not worth you using it at all.
Yeah, the other thing is that the where Star Trek Online has a lot of problems is actually within the HUD of the game, and this is like extremely telling. If you are just in game and you press Alt F12, it gets rid of the HUD, and you just see how beautifully smooth the game is. The HUD is actually a real burden on the game. So if you don't have to have something in your tray, take it out. The less you can have in your tray, the better.
Yeah, if you can get by with like having 2 of the trays, that would be best off as well. That would help out. That could help out a lot with your lag.
Yeah. I'll probably be getting rid of a couple of trays once I get my gaming mouse shipped.
Yep, there you go. So yeah, definitely seeing pets need to get deployed every time, because that's a huge part that's going to help you out with your DPS alone. It's just here's another part you might want to do, like right there, you probably could have slapped on the subspace modulator and brace for impact, and that could have helped you out a little bit right there. Um, Especially where you got no shields, that will help out with your damage taking abilities, and you'll take a little bit less from that.
Subspace field modulator is just worth its weight in gold.
Yes, it is. I mean, you have it. Use it as often as you need to, especially when when your shields have dropped and your hull is dropping either slow or fast. You just slap that on there and make use out of it. Here you are targeting something that was a little bit in the distance, where there was something that was close that you could have started hitting on. Anytime you're not shooting, it's loss of DPS. Okay, so you definitely want to make sure that if you got something that you can target, you're targeting that instead. Obviously, you're using a gravity well to pull them all together so that they all get grouped back together. You probably could have stopped moving a little bit before that.
Yeah, I think I did, but the lag just kept me going.
Yeah, it happens. This ship has a lot of drifting that it does.
Mm-hmm.
So it's one of those things that you definitely have to be aware of, and with the lag, it's hard to tell. But I think if you start deploying your pets as soon as possible, you start shooting as soon as you can hit something, even if it's the attack cube of the gateway, when you still got the spears, it would be better than hitting nothing.
Yeah.
Especially where you're trying to increase your DPS and get into like the 30k channel yourself.
I think with this run, I just want to get done.
Yeah, most people are at this point in time, because this is like, we're at 8 minutes here, and our normal DPS runs, even when you run with me, it's only about 3 to 4 minutes.
Yeah.
And that could just be because of the fact that I'm hitting so much harder than some of these other players here, or whatever being the case. But you're definitely running a dual beam build, which is just fine for DPS. It's actually the best route to go, really, depending on the ship, of course. Some ships it's better to use beam arrays instead. And one thing that might help, I don't know if you got your graphics turned down all the way.
Yes,
they are? Yeah. So that's good. I think there's a few other settings inside the graphics that you can turn down that should help out with things. Not in the normal graphics portion of things. See if I can find it real quick here. So, display. Sometimes anti-aliasing helps out a little bit. Sometimes it doesn't. Aspect ratio.
What sort of PC and video card have you got?
AMD, and it's just a HP laptop.
Okay, cool.
Don't have a desktop yet.
Yeah, that's fine. So, the laptop probably has like either a shared memory on the video card, depending on the laptop, of course. So that could very well be one of the holdbacks of your laptop itself.
Yeah.
But so looking at
ignore that PM spam. I was in PM hell.
Yeah, I understand that. I end up getting mass messages when I log in myself. So out. Yeah, this is probably a lot worse than it is for me typically, I would say. Was this a 10K channel that you organized completely?
Yes.
I don't recognize some of the names there. Of course, I try not to run 10K too often.
I recognize a couple of them.
Do you?
Yeah.
SRO Tact 1. In the typical splash damage from the warp core breach. So, yeah, a couple things there that you can look at doing. I'm going to pause it here because this is really telling of your bridge officers. So it looks like you got a Klingon here for your science, and the other science looks like it's a Riemann.
Yes.
And then 2 Orions for your tactical and engineer, correct?
Yeah. Basically, that other Orion is going to be switching out with the SRO as soon as I get it.
I was about to say that. You should definitely be doing that. The other thing you can be doing is using the Nausicaan bridge officers for the other 3 spots. They get a...
Absolutely.
Absolutely. I mean, this is because they get the pirate trait. So you don't have to buy one for one of them. I think the diplomacy on KDF, is that different than...
The KDF, it's so easy to find. You can go buy a bridge officer with pirate off the exchange for like 100 EC. That's how common they are over there. So
yes, so there you go. You got that. You can do. You don't even have to spend EC for one of the science officers. You can go get the potato head and use that instead.
Yep, I have that.
So if you have that, use that. That would definitely give you a little bit more damage that you'll be doing as well. Your power levels here is something that I definitely you definitely need to look at and see and review. If you can drop down the shield and engines a little bit more, and still get the 75 power for the amp from the core that you have, that will give you a little bit more power that you can throw into the weapons, which will give you a little bit more damage as well. I typically try and ride my power so that it's at 100 almost all the time.
Yeah, for a beam ship, it's very, very important that the preset for the weapon subsystem is always at 100.
Yep, and if you need to throw in an extra science embassy console to help boost the effects of the plasma leech. With 3 alone, you get a 2.7 increase, which is massive as far as that's concerned. And then you take on the effects of that, you can pretty much be set. I think actually that was 2.7 was with 2 of the embassy cores, embassy consoles. With 3 of them, it's like a 3.1, 3.2.
Yeah, for every 10 points in flow capacitors, add zero point 0.1 to your leech, and then that stacks 8 times.
Yep.
Yeah, the reason why it's important to have your weapons at 100 is because, particularly on a beam ship, is because of the way the beam mechanic works. There is actually a like a reservoir above 125 that you don't see, but can actually fill from your leech, and that's where your power drain starts from for when your weapons start firing. So yeah, particularly for a beam chip, it's important to keep it at 100. Even though you get to 100, and before you get to 100, it gets to 125, and you go, well, I've got some free, movement there. You actually technically don't. You're actually filling what's called your overcap. Once you just say you're at 90 and you're already at 125, putting it to 100, you're actually going 10 to your overcap already. So you'll definitely see a DPS increase just from doing that.
Yeah. And one of the things that I'm sure you're probably already working on it, but get your core up to epic.
Yep, I'm slowly working on that.
That would be one of the very top things to do. Now, one of the things that I might recommend here is especially on ships where you have the ability to use it, I would definitely be trying to use Fire at Will 3 due to the increase in bonuses that you get between 2 and 3 alone.
Okay.
So I always if I have 3 that I can put in there, I always do 3 by default. I never stack lower than that if it's available. So that's one of the things that I do personally because of that factor that it is. Pull it up here real quick. To give you an idea, rank 1 is 25% DPS improvement. So rank 2 is a 32% DPS improvement. Each attack is improved by 6%. Rank 3 is 40% DPS improvement with an improvement for each attack by 12%. So almost double. Well, actually, it is double per attack. Okay. As by comparison, anyways. It's not doubling what the weapon itself does, it's doubling what the bonus is given. So I always try and do the 3rd rank on that anytime it's available because of that factor alone. And I have the build that you can have that you can look at and maybe do a few changes that might help you out with it. After you get your core to epic, obviously I would finish these last 2 consoles down here for the tactical, get those up to epic. It's going to increase you just a little bit, but it's still going to make a difference. And also increasing your embassy console here to epic will help out as well. One thing I I saw and noticed that it might do you a little bit more benefit than the having two deuterium surpluses in there is having a weapons battery or an aux battery.
Yeah, I switched out a weapon battery in the middle slot and then kept the surplus.
Yeah, so I would definitely recommend that because if you got 5 in there and you're using all 5 during the course of ISA, you're hitting it a little too often, in my opinion. I typically will hit it. I hit evasive actually, going from the first group over to the left side, and then I'll use a surplus to get me in range of the spears or evasive, depending on how things worked out. And then to go from the left side to the right side, I'll hit it surplus or evasive, whichever is available. And then to get to the next set of spears, if they're close enough, I don't worry about it. If they're a little further away, then I will hit the surplus or evasive to get close to them real quick. So at the most, I use about 3 in one instance.
Yeah, that's about what I use too. I just keep a surplus of in my inventory and stuff.
Yeah. So yeah, as long as you got some in your inventory, you'll be fine. You don't need to have 2 devices in there, so you can use that weapons battery and get a bonus or auxiliary battery either way, and you'll get yourself a bonus because you got the new card trait in here. We'll go into that in a moment here. You get the new card trait, which auxiliary increases your damage as well. So the RCS. Is this the fleet one or is this the craft?
I want to say it's the fleet one.
Okay. Might suggest getting the crafted one and get one that's got the part gen on it. It's one of my suggestions that I have. That way you can increase. It increases your basically all 3 of your major commander science stuff. It increases the potential that they have and the damage that they do. Another thing I do have is actually dropping a couple of the consoles here for the science and putting in science embassies, flow capacitors, so you can get your power levels up without needing to sacrifice a whole lot.
They currently say emitters, so you might want to adjust that to plus flow instead of plus emit.
Yes. Yeah, so you definitely want to have it plus flow because that's what that's going to make the difference there for the leech here. You can throw the leech up into here, and like I said, I got the build all decked out, what you can do with it, and then I use the Science Exotic R&D console with part gen so that it also modifies the Titan's Rift, Repulsor, and Gravity Well, so that you'll increase both of those with 2 consoles alone, and that'll help out with your damage. One thing that I find I've always had ability to have 20 or more critical chance on every character that's not a Romulan. So I never really used the proton weapon set personally. That's my preference because that's one weapon that's not hitting, so you can replace that with either the crafted antiproton or the ancient antiproton weapon instead.
Mm-hmm.
And then obviously getting those up to Mark 14 in the back there, so that you're getting a little bit more damage boost from them. I think one of the things that you might look at, you got the regenerative shields here. You might, especially because I still, like even in my build, and I'll pull it up here in a second for everyone to see, the build that I've decked out in this one here, you're using 2 attack patterns here. So you could technically get away with using a Romulan engine and the Nukara reflector and shield. Okay? It would increase those 2, and having that fire at will 3 would increase your damage and DPS overall as well. Let's go into the skills section here. When it comes down to the skills, matter of opinion for a lot of people. These look a lot like build that was done by Jonathan Holmes. That's what these look like here in some way, anyways. I don't know if they're exactly the same build. Um, one thing that might be beneficial is putting some into the Starship particle generators, at least 6 points or so, especially for the Tychon's Rift, the Repulsor, and the Gravity Well. It'll make those that much better just doing that alone. Okay. This is based upon what I've used and what I found that works quite well. Like I said, I'll show that in a second here. Your traits. This is one that you might look at doing, especially since you're sitting still quite a bit during the run. Get yourself the anchored trait. Okay. It's only like 3 million on the exchange right now, so it's very cheap, very easy and doable to get, especially if you got a few Delta Rising captains, which I think you've created as well, a couple of.
Yes.
So you can take advantage of the EC from those guys and get yourself anchored quite easily without having to sell a whole lot. You just have to do a couple missions. Or a couple mission arcs, I should say. So that might be something that you might look at doing, because that anchored is a huge boost. Once you can get your pedal to the metal trait, that will be another boost that you'll get, because as you're flying and then after you stop for a little bit, you'll actually stack a couple of them for a few seconds before the anchored goes away. And sometimes I think you can even get pedal to the metal with anchored starting to tick up too. I haven't paid too much attention to that aspect, but Starship traits, this one that you have here, I don't know if that's correct. It's the overwhelming force.
Yes, that's just there until I get something else.
Yeah. I wouldn't even worry about that, honestly, because it does nothing for your build. You don't have beam overload attacks. So, and you don't have high yield torpedo attacks either. So that's one of those that, just as a little note, pedal to the metal obviously would be the go-to trait on that. If you can get it, supremacy or all hands on deck will be huge and critical. All hands on deck will definitely help out. When you're being a science captain, I don't know if it's going to give you quite the DPS ability, but it will definitely make it so you can use photonic fleet a little bit more. You might get it off like twice during a ISA run, for example.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Description. So it looks like you've got some of the just some of the rare officers until you get better ones, obviously.
Yes.
So I mean, they're not bad. They're really not, and they you got 2 of them that helps out with the recharge time of the deflector abilities, which would be the science skills that you have that you're using. Nothing wrong with that. And you using a keybind there?
Yes, and that's usually just for the start of the run.
Yep.
To get all the buffs going.
That's perfect. That's exactly what you should be using. That's what people should be using, because you're not fully unloading everything right there at the start. So that's great. You one thing you might consider, especially if you've noticed your pet starting to attack early on, ahead of time especially, which pets tend to do, you might try putting them in, docking them, and then you keybind that you have there, having it set so that it puts them to attack mode.
Yeah, I haven't had that problem because they are on escort.
Yeah. For years they go out to the side, so they're not like getting thrust out in front like they normally do. So that's one of the advantages that you have with your ship.
Mm-hmm.
That's something that if you start running into an issue like that, you might look at doing. crit chance 21.9, and you'll get, so as it is right now, if you get that second SRO, that'll take you up to 23.9 if I recall. So that when you drop the Botanic, it'll just be a slight drop in your crit chance. Your crit severity will go up a little bit from the SRO as well, but most of what you're not going to see is you're not going to see those Nazacan officers doing things to like the crit severity or the crit chance, because they're raising your damage, if I recall right. Here's...
Yeah, Nausicaan's, the pirate trait adds 1.5%. It's a Cat 2 buff.
Yeah. So here's a build that I was setting up, and this one here is, like I said, is a little bit more geared towards a science build, so it's not necessarily good for everything. But I've used the Selenite deflector, and suggested getting into ultra rare at least, because that's when you get your science graviton skill, I believe it is, up to 50, which is a huge boost for science. So instead of using the Gremlin engines, you can use the Nukara with the Nukara shield and the Selenite deflector, so that you increase your science skills so that they do a little bit more damage overall, and that should help out. Anyway, it's really up to you and how you want to take it. Just a couple of different ideals. This is one of those ideals that I said, well, this is one way that you could go. The other way, like I said, is doing what other tactical officers do on their builds, which isn't completely necessary. But one of the key things is you get the dual beam banks with 3 360-degree weapons in the back, so that when everything's facing forward or in front of you, everything is getting hit hard, so that you're not running with like a proton weapon that's not only firing when weapons fire at will is hit. So that's one of your DPS losses that you have there. You got one weapon that's not doing anything, and then on this ship where it's only got 7 weapons in the layout, that could become a critical thing for you. And like I said, I'm using the part gen conducive RCS accelerator and the exotic science exciter, correct? With both of them with part gens. Those are definitely a future down the road, something to try, because those on the exchange, last I checked, was about 40 to 60 million a piece. So you can start crafting them and hope that you get that, or just live without them and do something different instead. EPS would be another good mod to get on either one of those. That should help out as well for your power transfers of stuff.
Okay.
So in your case, you can use part gens or EPS to help out your DPS. Either one would be a good benefit to your build overall. Skills that did something a little bit different. I dropped the maneuvers down a little bit. The ship is a little bit better off as far as maneuvering compared to like a scimitar, so you shouldn't have too many difficulties by comparison. But I did throw in a little bit more into the battery, so that you get a little bit battery boost on there. And then obviously I threw some into the particle generators, so that your gravity wells and Tychon's Rift is going to get a little bit more damage overall. This is just kind of one of those things that I had put in there based upon builds, like it's based upon builds that I've used. I think this is actually based upon my scimitar build that I have, which these skills is very close to what Felician uses on his. So, and then traits. Traits basically the same. You could actually get rid of the pattern recognition technically, and if you really want to use the particle manipulator.
Absolutely.
I would, especially with your science and how much we're throwing. If you get all the stuff with the part generators, this is going to make a huge difference in how much damage your science skills are using. Okay.
Okay.
The other thing that I use, because I know you die a lot, seen you run with me quite a few times, the fail-safe scrambler could help save your butt a few times here and there.
I would definitely get just a slight change to you there, Scott. I'll definitely get a bladed shell as well. It does a lot more than the description on it suggests that it would.
Yes.
So it's actually a very, very good trade. It's still cheap out of the current lockbox. Can't guarantee that Cryptic won't change it in the future. I actually think it's doing more than what it's supposed to be doing at the moment. But if you're only spending 1.5, 2 mil, you'll get benefits from it now. So,
yeah.
But it is pretty much up there as my strongest hull heal consistently.
Yep, and especially where you're dying a lot, this could help you stay alive a little more, because as we know, when you're dead, you're not doing any DPS.
No.
So, and then obviously the anchor, like I was suggesting earlier, where since you're sitting still a lot, anchor will definitely be a good size boost for your damage, because that takes up about 400 to 500 or more. So it does a heck of a lot. Obviously, I changed this very little with the pedal to the metal trade in there. If you can get all hands on deck or supremacy, I would definitely look at replacing the reactive repair nanites instead. And then obviously on your active reputation traits here, there's 4 space ones that we're going to be using now, so I would definitely make sure that you're using those 4. And they should help out. The cloaking one is going to could be very beneficial, especially with the 2 MC SROs helping out with the decloak damage.
Mm-hmm.
Only a couple little differences that I've done in. So I've added in the maintenance engineer, which is from the T4 engineering Duff missions. No, correction. That's right down here. Maintenance engineer is just... Okay, the maintenance engineer here is... I had to get my bearings here. This is the battery Duff, so that every time you use a battery, it's increasing your damage. If anyone in your team is using one of the team batteries, it increases your damage as well. Okay? Here's a tip. I use team batteries. I use nothing but team batteries when I use my batteries. It's a team weapons and aux. So if you run with me often, you have this, you use it in yourself, you boost yourself there. When I use it, you boost yourself again, so you could get a double stack on your weapons. Okay? So anyone who likes to run with me, I suggest you get this, because you'll get a double boost on it. That's just one of those things that I've used for quite a while, and I used it for just myself, and me and a couple of the people tested it out, and we had it stacking 5 times.
Wow.
And it does a significant difference when you stack it that many times.
Actually, I'm not sure what it's named on the KDF side, but on the Fed side, it's Exocomp.
Yep.
It could be even called that on the Fed side, on the KDF side as well. But there's a like a species one. Torosec is on the Fed side. I'm not sure what it's called on the Fed side. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't remember what it is on the Fed and the KDF side as well. I do know that it was one of the Duffs that they gave out during the what was it? The Duff mini mission at the Academy. So,
which I think that's why it's called Exocomp as well on the on the KDF side.
Yes.
So yes, it is.
If you've done that one already, you might have this officer, so you just need to start using it. And then the Tier 4 engineering Duff, every time you use your emergency power to whatever, you're getting 8 seconds of 25 power levels when using it. So there's a 25% chance for that to happen. So that's one of those that it's a cheap thing. I mean, all you gotta do is just fly around the galaxy, getting all the engineering duff missions if you haven't done it yet, and you get yourself a free duff that's actually very good, in my opinion. And then obviously the buffs, 2 SRO embassies, you want to make sure you have that, and then 3x pirates on your build. And later on, if you can afford it, you can replace one of your engineering or the operations officer with a Direne or the alternate officer that gives you the 10% damage against the Borg. So that'd be something that you can look at doing later on down the road. They're expensive, unfortunately.
Yeah. Is it everything?
Yeah, that's pretty much everything on that. That's some of the suggestions that I have. The weapons here, or the crit chance and crit save, I'm not going to adjust that because it could change here and there based upon how you got things set up. But if you adjust your power levels accordingly, add in another science flow cap console or two, you should have enough powers that you can max out your weapons. And like we said, that alone will bring your damage right on up so that you can actually enjoy. And we could probably get you into the 30K with those few changes right there.
Mm-hmm.
So that's pretty much all I got for you there. Is there anything else you want to add in there, Snipey?
If you still encounter survivability problems, I'd consider putting getting rid of the Tychons and moving TBR2 down to TBR1 and putting Hazard Emitters 3 there for a much stronger hull heal, because it's your only hull heal in that bridge officer setup.
Yes.
And you'll still have the crowd control aspect, but a much stronger hull heal, and then replace the Ensign Science with a polarized hull, which is basically an immunity to tractor beams, and also a massive boost to your resist levels. So if you are taking damage, you can hit that, and you'll just take a lot less damage quickly. That's probably the only thing that I would suggest with your bridge officer skills. Maybe as well, if you still have trouble surviving with shield heals, you might have to do something with your engineering abilities. I'm not suggesting going to reverse shield polarity or anything like that, but you might have to go with an emergency powder shields and emergency powder weapons alternate, and you'll probably have to drop them. But that's something, what Scott's got there is something for you to aim for, because when you get your skill level up with piloting your ship, you should be able to survive, particularly if you are got the right build.
Yep,
so,
and the right team.
And it depends on your team a lot as well.
Yeah, it's going to depend on your team as well. If you're running with pug people or people are doing 1K damage, no offense to anyone out there that's hitting that, you're going to have a little bit more hull heals to amend that. And in those cases, that's actually when I pull out my simulated shield and other combination, because that gives you a little bit extra healing as well. So you could look at that as well for that potential if you need it, more shield healing beyond what we've suggested here. So,
particularly with science abilities, because they're all kinetic based, the threat system in the game almost treats it like torpedoes, and torpedoes have they're treated by the threat system in this game as something to be focused on, even though they don't go through shields and stuff like that. And people who do run torp builds in this game would know what I'm talking about here, that you shoot off your torps and basically all the NPCs are focusing on you. Now it doesn't happen to the same extent with a science build, but you do, especially if you start pumping up your build full of particle generators, you will just become the focus of the NPCs more and more. Even if your beams aren't doing as much damage as another ship on the team,
Yep.
the fact that you're pumping out a lot of kinetic damage is taken by the threat system as something to focus on. So just keep that in the back of your mind as well, that if you do start dying more as you're lifting the particle generator side of your build, it's potentially not you and you're piloting, it's potentially that you are being seen as more threatening by the system, and then it's a compliment. They're focusing on you to kill you because you're more threatening than the other players on the map at the time. So look at it that way. But you will have to do something to address that until you can pilot your way out of it.
Yep. And that'll come with time. I mean, you're hitting the right spots. That if you're not hitting the lag as much, and you're getting the skills off in the right succession, especially running like a beta and a fire at will combination, that should help out your damage right there. Hitting those two one after the next. You're hitting the right spots, and with your space flanking, you should be doing enough damage to be able to get you right up there and happy. And I think you might have potential to be able to take this ship into the 40 to 50K range, honestly.
Well, that's the end goal, but
I think if you got this, you got the right build, you got the right group of people that you ran with, you're looking at probably a 40 to 50K or higher. I think the highest is 60, isn't it, right now?
The highest side, but it's in a recluse. I think the highest side is in the 70s somewhere.
Yeah.
But most of the sides are clustered in the 50s. The highest I've been able to get my investor on my size in the 50s. And you've got an extra hangar bay, you've got an extra weapon port, and you've got a very similar bridge officer layout to my Vesta. So it's definitely possible for you to get yourself into 50K with the right build, but also more importantly, how you actually fly a ship.
Yep.
Oh, and also who you run with as well, which has got to factor in how well you do.
Yeah.
Yep. And that's one of the things. That's why I've tried a couple times where I pulled you in from a group that I formed in 30K, so I can get you a slightly better group of people there. But I think we can get you into it, especially with these slight little changes. I mean, even just doing the bridge officer skill changing out the bridge officers so that those are changed to the SRO and pirates. And then adjusting your power levels with another embassy console or two, that probably alone would be enough to get you 30K.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, it won't take a whole lot, honestly. You're right there on the borderline, and that is probably one of the key factors here.
Yeah, I was looking at pirate and I was reading it. I'm like, it doesn't seem like it's worth it.
It is worth it very much. On a Federation captain, they only can get 2 officers at this point that's got the pirate trait. But the Feds, the KDF, I mean, can fill up any non-tactical officer with pirate, which is a huge benefit for that side.
Not to go too deep into it, but there are categories when working out the damage potential of a weapon or an ability or something like that, and various things fall under certain categories, and then the way that it's worked out is that the sum of category 1 is multiplied by the sum of category 2, etc., until you get to your final damage. So your attack consoles fall under category 1. So you got a 30% attack console or something like that, but that only translates into category 2 to about 7, 8, 9%. So the 1.5% on that bridge officer is a category 2 buff. So if you equate that back to a sort of attack console equivalent, that is having 3 of those bridge officers on your ship is about the equivalent of having another attack console. A 5th TAC console. So, and that's all damage as well. That benefits your beams, it benefits your science damaging abilities, it benefits everything except for your pets.
Yep. So that's some things for you to do. So to improve on, that should hopefully help you out with that and get you up to that. You got any questions for us?
Not really.
It's a lot of information, but fortunately it's just recorded so that you'll be able to come back and review it if you need to. Obviously, we're around to help out. The ship build, it's shared, and I've linked it here in the chat so you can have it. It'll be part of this video notes as well, so that it'll be all over the place, basically.
Okay.
So with that, that will be the end of this show. You're welcome to stick around for any after-show thoughts and talks and discussions and other things. Keep going from there. But thank you very much for joining us on episode number 2 of Pilot Review.
You're very welcome.
Thank you.
Did you see the bridge officer layout for that Nandi Snipey?
I did, yes. It's got 6 bridge officers.
That is going to be insane for
Bolts.
yeah. That, I mean, just look at it from a aspect of a Romulan that can have 6 SRO officers.
Oh yeah, I didn't think of that.
That's one of those things. I mean, you're talking a lot of potential boost right there alone. I mean, I thought about that. I was like, 6 SRO officers. Holy crap! You can basically not even have to worry about an extra console that's doing crit H.
It's going to be very interesting.
Yeah, the only
piece of with the Decora console though. I bet you it's got something to do with torpedoes or something like that.
probably, and some people are anticipating it also being a part of a set for the Decora. So if that's the case, that's gonna make some people a little upset.
Well, I have got a Decora, but it's on my engineer.
Yeah, exactly, and it's like I don't have a Decora at all, so that's one of the things that I'll have to get a hold of myself.
Yep, I have
Still an expensive ship, I think.
Yeah, that's one of those things that is quite interesting, actually. Although the sad thing was that it's a 4-4 weapon layout from the looks of it, instead of like a more escorty type ship, but it looks like they're trying to make it a cruiser, basically.
Yeah, it's sort of like a half cruiser. Well, the look of it definitely looks like it's an escort.
Yes, it totally
not that
looks.
bad.
It looks like it should have been an escort to begin with.
There was always a bit of a risk with this ship as well because I'm thinking back to all the Star Trek shows. We've seen the Decora, we've seen a Ferengi shuttle. I think we saw some sort of Ferengi ship in Enterprise. But aside from that, I don't think we've seen any other Ferengi ships. So they had creative license to go and do whatever they wanted to do. And by the looks of it, actually they've done all right.
Yeah, I'm actually kind of happy that we are getting this ship here, and if it's even half of what it looks like it's going to be, it could be. It could still end up being a fun ship. I don't think it's going to get the pilot maneuver skills, but it would be nice if it did, even if it only got like 2 of them.
So it is a pilot ship, is it?
It has pilot seats in it.
Might only go up to lieutenant or something like the Zindi ship. Or lieutenant commander.
Yeah, it was Lieutenant Commander Science, if I recall.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it was almost there to be enough of a pilot ship, I get. But I think it could have. I mean, it should get, in my opinion, thruster and retro thrusters. But I guess we'll see tomorrow when
Uh,
the
yeah, geez, I don't know whether it will get that. It doesn't look like it's that sort of ship, considering the weapons layout.
yeah, it doesn't look like it at all. But you never know; they might pull something out. I mean, this could be something that even like at the retro and thrusters could be very usable on a ship like this.
Yeah, and I guess it is an event ship. It's not like it's your reward for being here during the summer event of 2015. So
Yep. Well, and one thing that they're trying to emphasize here is just how um, good these ships could be, and because that was one of the things that they talked about is that these ships are like your almost lockbox quality ships. I don't know if you caught that in the threads that they were talking about the event
yeah,
ships.
I did get that. Yeah.
So that was one of the things that I thought was kind of interesting that they're considering these almost lockbox quality ships that they're giving for free,
Mm.
and, which they really are.
Well, yeah, I'm not sure about the Ryzen Corvette from last year. I didn't actually get it. I wasn't that impressed with it.
Yeah,
But the Breen carrier from the winter event, that was definitely that lockbox quality. Had pretty decent pets on it. So, but they have to do something to get maximum involvement from the players to actually get this ship. And
yeah,
I think what they've done of making it account wide and getting past ships that you've gotten account wide, I think that's fantastic as well.
yeah. The only sad thing about the account wide ships is that they've only gone back to about just before or just after the obelisk was released. Any ship before that is not your account wide recoverable ships now. That
That
was
will
one.
probably do something with their system, or it's probably way into a backup now. I'm not going to hold that against them. And
Yeah.
besides, I wasn't even playing back then, so it doesn't matter to me. But
Yeah, see, I was for a couple of ships, so I do have a couple of them, like the Obelisk. I know some people's got the original Adi. I was able to get the old Ambassador.
are those ships worth it now, though? Like,
Well, the Ambassador you can because they've released it recently again as a C-Store reclaimable item, and I think that's probably what sparked this. You can upgrade it to a T5U ship now. Um,
okay,
and then the Obelisk never really was worth it. It was
it
it
wasn't
was
even the flawless.
yeah, the ones before that, not too much. I mean, you also got to remember that the Audi that came out, the plain Audi, and then the Obelisk, those were um, also put into the fleet stores.
Yeah.
So that's what.
Oh, those ships are okay.
Yeah.
But
Those ships are in the fleet stores so that you can claim it there. So that might be one of the reasons, and why they're not making those reclaimable, because it would basically kill that aspect. But at the same time, it's they got the Dyson ship as a reclaimable account ship as well.
mm, I'm just excited. I'm going to be able to get a Kabali console on my Delta Recruit.
I know, I am too. That's one of the things I love using.
They had to do something with that though, because they've got ships on sale. It's still technically a brand new ship, and up until now, if you were new to the game or made a new character, you could only have 3 of the 4 consoles. So they had to do something about that.
Yes, they would have. I mean, and the fact that they hadn't up until now made it so that you could get the Kabali ship, and it was a part of a 4-piece console set. That kind of says that to everyone else, "F you, we don't care about you." So they kind of had to do something about that.
Exactly, and that Kabali console is a great console. So
Oh,
that's
my Scimitar is basically replaced the Valdor console. I've used that almost.
you use that in your DPS build there.
What's that?
You use that in your DPS build there.
Yes, I do. That's what got
Wow.
me. That's what got me 90k DPS.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
So, my 90k DPS was not using a traditional Valdor console setup. use the Kobali console to keep me alive, so I didn't die, because I almost did a couple times, and I used that and stayed alive and got 90k on that.
Do you have a ablative shell on your DPS build?
Nope.
I would recommend getting it because I got my personal best yesterday because I can only run in pickup groups at the moment, in pub groups at the moment due to the lag, and I got 87 and no Valdor, 3 embassy consoles, binaural, leech, and assimilated, and obviously the fire attack console. So
Yeah.
that's how good that trait is.
Yeah, I can imagine. I got to get back up to my number 8 spot. I'm kind of a little upset that I got knocked down from being up that spot. But at the same time, I expected it because here lag's starting to get down for enough people that they can start getting your 90k plus runs.
I'm hoping that with this week's patch, like holy patch notes, like it was just huge. And Bordicus actually tweeted something earlier that there's a new list of stuff that I think what's being released this week is stuff that they could tweak and change to get rid of the lag, and then that's all been crossed off and stuff done now. Some people might have actually seen this tweet before, but he's posted a new longer list next to it for stuff that has to actually be rewritten.
Oh wow!
So yeah, it's massive. So I'll see if I can find the link.
Yeah, I knew they had to rewrite some of the skills because they were just not working right.
Yeah, well, see, any of the stuff that's been brought into game up until now and up until including this week's patch, I believe were tweaks and juggling about of the existing code. I don't think they had to rewrite too much. I think from now, after this week's patch, everything is all the stuff that's been fixed has to be basically partially rewritten or completely rewritten.
Yeah, and that really makes sense, really, because there's some things that it's working, but they can't do anything about changing it any further without changing how it or whatever it's doing in those cases.
Well, I'll just put the link in the group chat here if you want to show it. It's just a massive long list. So yeah, it's good that they're keeping on top of they're keeping consistent contact about it, and that they are working on it. And you know what? Every couple of days, I'm noticing the game's improving ever so slightly. There's still some horrible times where it's just lag central, but you are getting more and more lag-free times now than you did, and hopefully after this week there'll be a lot more lag-free times.
Yeah, that hopefully all this will work out. I mean, so we got the list on the left, which was a lot of that got crossed out.
He posted that 2 weeks ago.
Yep, I remember seeing that.
Yeah, and we were able to zoom in to the first 3 or 4 lines, and it had some of the command tree abilities in there. I can't remember what it was called now. But yeah, so that was, which we knew, whenever you go into a match at the moment and someone is running command tree, there is a lag caused by the activation of their abilities. So, and I don't know what the rest was on that list. I'm assuming what's in the triple notes is basically what's on that list. So
yeah, yeah, pretty much. I mean, there was a bunch of it, and it goes back to what Salami Inferno was talking about, is that there's 3 major issues, but those 3 major issues breaking down into tons of small little issues.
Yeah.
And it's awesome that they have this all listed out so they know what's going on, even if they aren't putting it publicly. It is nice to see that Woodicus has been posting it on the triple notes so that it's at least indicated, saying this is what we fixed with this set of skills.
Yeah.
And I don't know if anyone's run ISA on Tribble yet to see if it's actually taking.
I haven't actually.
That might be something to do tonight or something like that.
Yeah, I've downloaded it. It was a big download.
Oh yeah, it was
But,
like a 3 gig download that it was for that.
yeah, I
So
haven't gone across. I know what the lag was like there before. There was lag there before. It'd just be good to have a clean run in anything, not just ISA, in anything.
yep. So that'll be something interesting. It would it be nice is if this patch that comes in this week here takes care of the lag enough so that we can actually enjoy the game to the fullest extent. I mean, we got these traits, we got these skills, we got these trees. It
And
can't
there's
be.
more coming.
It can't just be there just so we can just be lagged out so we can't even do our DPS runs anymore.
Yeah. Well, it's not even the DPS runs. It's actually just simply
It's doing
playing
the game. Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, it's affecting. I mean, I've noticed it affecting me when I do some of the missions, and it's insanely stupid how it's affecting all that. So
Yep.
it'll be interesting to see what goes on here, and it might make your runs a little bit better there, Dustin.
Yeah, one can hope.
Yes. So it'll be interesting to see what they got to rewrite and how long that rewrite's going to take for these skills.
Well, that page on the left, that took 2 to 3 weeks. So,
Yeah.
and we don't know how long they were working on that before they started to talk about the lag, because I think many of us can remember they weren't talking about it for a long time. And
Well, shoot, you and me were talking about it like right after the anniversary, where we got on everywhere. We got on it, Facebook, we got on the forums. I mean, we were just all over the frickin' place with it.
Mm-hmm.
And as we were getting our trees done a bit faster than most other players, we were starting to notice it towards the end of last year as well. There's little things, that we would just go, that's different to what it was before Delta Rising. That sort of stuttering wasn't there, and it just got bigger and bigger over time.
Yeah, and it's one of those things, for anyone listening, if you don't have lag, congratulations.
Yeah, fantastic.
It's fantastic, but when I tell people this right now, compare your captain to mine, and then if you got exactly what I have for my captain, down to the T, down to the very traits that I use, down to the trees that I use, down to the ship setup, down to the tray setup, down to everything, so it's identical almost, you're going to see the lag. I promise. I mean, I have 2 captains that I can use for an example. One is a Delta recruit who has none of the traits, none of the skills, none of the trees, no lag. Up until, I mean, I see a little bit here and there, but,
I'm seeing it now as I'm adding more to my spec trees.
Yes. As that captain leveled up,
Yeah.
I saw more and more of the lag, and it started becoming more apparent as that tree started filling up more and more. Now, that captain's only 58 now, but it's still something that it's starting to get noticeably different, because you have to remember, when you got something that is triggering based upon some unset specification. For example, anchored was set based upon if it is sitting still. Well, it's checking. Am I sitting still? Am I sitting still? Am I sitting still? Every second it's set checking that. And then once you are sitting still, it's like, am I still sitting still? And then you take into effect that you may not be the only person that has the same trait. The other 5 people in your instance might have that same trait. Okay? So that's 5 people that's hitting the server at the same time for the same trait, saying, is this person sitting still? Well, add in other traits that's doing this. Add in other trees that's doing this. It adds up. All of a sudden, you can end up with close to 100 different traits alone that could be going back to the server every second or every couple seconds, checking for their conditions.
For a high DPS team run, I've guesstimated there's about those flags that appear under our buff, debuff, and abilities flags. With all of us going hammer and tongs, there should be a total of about 150 to 160 flags active, between 140 and 160, and that's what really lags us out. That's why I have to go into the public queues, because I still have my 30 to 35, and if I can find a team where they've only got 10 to 15 each, that's 60 plus my 30 to 35. That's only 90 across 5 players versus 150, 160, and
Yeah.
that's why I don't see much lag when I go, depending on the time of day, but I don't see much lag.
Yep. Yeah. For myself, I had to actually stop doing the 50 and 75K runs and start going to the
Can't,
30Ks.
can't do it. Mm.
I mean, and that's where I got my 80K run, was on the 30K channel. Um, So it wasn't like it's not like I have my own specialized team of people that I did that with. Would I like to get to that point? Definitely. I'd like to get to a point where I got a team that I can use and go for one aim of getting the ultimate top score and making Ryan and Felician chase someone else besides each other. I mean, I think that's my ultimate goal that I want to have in the end. Just because I get tired of seeing the two of their names at the top of the boards every day when I log in. Although Felician, interestingly enough, is currently not at the top of the board. It's him and Spencer.
That's Ryan, yeah, Ryan and Spencer.
Ryan and Spencer right now at the top of the board, and which is, I think, is a good indication of why you don't see Felician on the board, because he simply is not playing because of the lag. He was there for a quick instance when he got 146K, but it's because that was running Tribble that everyone complained about being done, because it's not being done on Holodeck. That they deleted that post that he'd done.
But even on Tribble, that was still fortunate to find a lag-free environment at that particular time to get that particular run. So.
Oh yeah. Yep. And then you got the new lag maker right now that I'm sure is going to be probably on this list as well, is the Iconian 3-piece set. Think what that's doing.
Is that causing lag, is it?
Oh, you got to believe it. Just take a moment to think what it's doing. It's checking to see if people is within a certain distance of your ship, and if they are, it's giving them a buff, and then it's checking to see if they're still in the distance of the ship.
Geez, I must be an optimist. I thought they would have sorted that out before releasing it, considering that lag.
I highly doubt they sorted that out, man. Honestly.
Yeah, this is true.
I highly doubt they sorted that out, to be honest. And I think that's one of those things that needs to be thought of and remembered with the lag issues. Is that could very well still be a potential lag causer right there. Is that 3-piece set, because it is checking to see if people is within a certain distance of your ship, and if you are, then it's giving that person a buff. And then it's checking to keep if that person is still in the distance of the ship for the next set of buffs that it gives to it. So
I think the buff's applied. If you proc the buff, I think it's just applied to every friendly within 10 kilometers.
Yes.
So if you drift out of the 10-kilometer range while in that 8 seconds, I don't think you lose the buff.
It's one of those things that you might lose it, you might not. I don't know. I don't have enough evidence to prove one or the other, but it is one of those things that is checking to see who's within 10 kilometers. So it has to do a quick check and know when it's going off, who's there, because it's got to be checking. So.
Well, there's new traits coming out shortly with these new ships they're about to release. This is going beyond the Ferengi one. There's the rumor mill has it that there's traits that are going to give beam overload and rapid fire to your pets when you use it and stuff like that. So that's just more checking of what's around you. So again, I'm an optimist. I hope they have that sorted out before they release it.
Yep. Well, and then the other thing you got to think of Thursday. With the new feature special, House of Peg, they are releasing the trait that is the point-blank space trait. Guess what that's based on? How close you are to your enemy.
Ah, okay. Well, that mechanic already exists in the game. They're just altering it, I think, because that's isn't that changing the damage that your weapons do at a certain distance?
Yes, it is. Also
Hmm.
taking into account, it's increasing the damage and um, giving a certain bonus on that. So you're taking that into account, plus the factor of beam fire at will or cannon spread volley, where it goes into several different targets, and it's now got to take into account every single one of those targets, in addition to the already damage that it's doing in the first place.
Well, that will it will only go off your focus target with beam fire at will anyway. I'm not sure how cannon scatter volleys works, but I'm assuming it would be the same.
Now, cannon scatter volley does it in a cone area of effect. So
Yeah, but it still will hit three targets in that. It's not just a straight cone; it will go and hit three targets. Where fire
yes,
at will, I know, hits four. Um, but yeah, so it's. But I'm not sure if the mechanic behind it is exactly the same.
yeah, it'd be interesting to see what happens there. But there's two potential lag causing things that they're going to introduce here soon.
Hopefully not.
Optimism. Gotta have optimism.
Exactly. Oh, exactly. Have optimism.
I have optimism right until I see it in action.
Yeah, I guess that's where I'm at at the moment.
That's one of the things lately. I love the game. It'll be interesting to see what happens with these fixes. Hopefully, it takes care of it and makes it so that we can actually enjoy it. They've done a great quick turnaround of taking care of what they have taken care of already. So that is definitely a huge thing right there.
Well, when they finally admitted it was a problem, they've started to pull their finger out, but it did take a while.
Yeah, it was not an instantaneous
No,
occur,
it was
but
months and months of us making videos, and it started to get ridiculous there. In the end, some of the videos that we're all making, just to get them to just to give us some acknowledgement that yeah, we might know exactly what's going on, but we've got an educated guess.
yep. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and turn the broadcast off here for the after show discussion here.
No problem. No.
We feel free to stay in the room and we can discuss. I'm gonna go back to the game and